Well, joining us now, a very special guest, Piyush Goyal, the Union Minister of Commerce and Industry. Thanks very much, Mr. Goyal, for being with us. So many points in this budget, even though the budget itself was shorter. In fact, when the Finance Minister finished her speech, we all had to scurry to be ready to talk about what she'd said. This, of course, is an interim budget, but I found one statistic interesting where she said that the average real income of people has increased by 50%. How significant is this in the context of the overall growth story of our country?
Well, I think we must see it in the context of what we inherited in 2014. A broken economy, fragile five, the world had written us off. High interest rates, high inflation, very low on foreign exchange reserves, growth plummeting. And by and large, the confidence in the nation was completely missing. Investors were not comfortable coming to India. In that context, the last 10-year journey has been one of strengthening the macroeconomic fundamentals and meeting the needs of the people of India, whether it's food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, education, good roads, or let's say good connectivity, digital connectivity, road connectivity, railway facilities, airport facilities, or whether it's tapped water connections. I mean, if you look at the life of a common man, this government has focused its energies to make sure that every person living in India is benefited by one or the other scheme. Our youth get more opportunities, our women get respect and come into the mainstream, come into the formal economy. Our farmers' productivity and incomes increase. And the poor come out of the deprivation or the marginalized life that they've led for years. The fact that 25 crore people have come out of multidimensional poverty in 10 years is no mean achievement. Yes. This budget, in a way, builds upon this strong foundation as we work towards making India a developed nation.
Mr. Goyal, in 2019, it was you who had presented the vote on account. At that time, we had seen several substantial announcements for farmers under the Prime Minister Kisan Nidhi. There were taxation announcements as well. And this time around, though, there seems to be nothing in that category of populist. Do we see these as signs of a government confident of returning?
First of all, I'd like to correct you that even the interim budget of 2019 did not tinker too much with the tax rates or with the overall structure of our various schemes. The PM Kisan Samman Nidhi was actually a scheme brought in the current year itself. It wasn't for the future. It was a scheme we introduced for the year 18-19 itself. And it could have been a cabinet decision. It could have been an announcement in the budget. It was started from December of 18. So I think we have kept the sanctity of the interim budget even in 2019. This time around also, the vision for the future has been given. The roadmap to become a developed nation has been laid out. Our thrust areas, be it in the green economy, be it in innovation, be it in strengthening the tourism infrastructure of the country, be it in creating robust infrastructure to bring down logistics costs and make business and life easier for the common man, and our effort to sustain the economy and the economic growth over the next 2.5 decades is reflected in this budget. And I think if you go back to the 2019 budget also, you'll find the major portion of that budget was dedicated to articulating Prime Minister Modi's vision for India. And I think we've come out winners in terms of actually implementing Prime Minister Modi's vision through his sincere hard work, through his efforts over the last 10 years. And going forward, he stands committed to making India truly a prosperous and developed society.
You know, Mr. Goyal, we live in a young country. Our demographic dividend, some would suggest, is perhaps our greatest gift. But we have a lot to do in order to make that work and to effectively ensure that it results in economic growth. Women are obviously a key part of that demographic dividend. The opposition says that you treat women only as a political constituency. But when I look at this budget, and it's a short budget, I find 3 separate areas where you focused on women, starting with the girl child, right? Vaccination for girls against cervical cancer, 83 lakh women, self-help groups and the work they've done, and Lakpati Didis. How is this essential for our economic growth, the role of women?
Vishnu, I'm very happy you raised this issue because if you see Mr. Modi's work in the last few years, right from day one, what did he focus on? The Jan Dhan Yojana, so that we would empower people who were marginalized, who never had financial inclusion, never had a bank account. And the first focus was at least one bank account, preferably of the lady of the house. Of course, now we have 50 crore Jan Dhan accounts. Almost everybody in the country today is a beneficiary of banking system in the country, of a very strong, robust banking system. He focused on Ujjwala to relieve the women from the problem of smoke chulas. I remember going to my grandmother's house in my childhood. She would start early morning from serving us tea, breakfast, lunch, get a short break in the afternoon, evening tea, dinner. We saw her on the chula the whole day. They said 400 cigarettes got into her body. He relieved women from that stress. He brought dignity to our sisters, to our mothers, to our daughters with 11 crore toilets. Governments had come and gone for 65 years. Nobody ever thought that our women deserve the dignity of a toilet, at least a toilet. The fact that he made sure that 4 crore families get a free home, and those homes were in most cases registered in the name of our sisters or of the women folk in the family. Tap water, waterborne diseases is our biggest pain. Already 11 crore additional homes have got Nal Se Jal, tap water connection. Now, each of these has had a transformational impact on the life of our women folk. And bear in mind, every woman that we teach, every woman who goes through the formal education process, every woman who aspires to become a part of the formal economy doesn't add 1 time to the economy. They probably add 1.5 or 2 times to the economy. And I'll tell you why. Our women are doing great work. Even if they work at home, they're contributing to the GDP, but not being recognized as such. They're not being taken into account in the formal GDP. But as each woman comes into work, as Maria Shakil becomes a famous and a very reputed TV anchor,
well done,
she
Maria.
gets a formal salary, she contributes to the GDP in a formal sense, and either a man, woman or a machine takes over the work which you would otherwise have done at home, adding a second element to the GDP. So there's a washing machine to be sold, there's a dishwasher to be sold, there's maybe a domestic help who comes and helps with the household chores. That's a second element to the GDP, adding to the formal GDP. So women-led development is India's future. The 3 crore Lakpati Didis or our women of substance contributing in innovation. I just saw vaccine wars yesterday. Look at the humongous work and the proud work that our women scientists did. Look at ISRO. Each of our missions being led by women scientists, by women space researchers and space scientists. I mean, we are so proud of the good work that the women are doing. Sky is the limit. Or rather, even the sky is no more a limit for our women.
And interestingly, Mr. Goel, this government has, developed a lot of curiosity, particularly around this scheme which has been announced, which is a housing scheme for deserving middle class. When will you be rolling this out? How soon? And how do you define this deserving middle class? What is the criteria? There's so much to ask you on that front.
Well, I wouldn't be privy to the exact contours or the timing of the scheme. The Honorable Finance Minister, her team, and the Housing Ministry, I'm sure, would be working on this. And in due course, as it gets formalized, I'm sure we'll all be benefited by knowing what is coming out of it. But it shows the direction in which Prime Minister Modi is actively working and engaging. He sees that with 25 crore people coming out of poverty, now it's time that we also address the neo-middle class, or the people who have come into the middle class, and address their concerns. So I think this is really a transformational journey the nation is going through.
Sure.
And looking at the trend figures, looking at the confidence that the world has in India's story today, we'll see large amount of investment coming to India. We'll see rapid economic growth, work opportunities, business opportunities, job opportunities galore. I think India's time has come, and the next 2 decades, 2.5 decades, is going to take India on a transformational journey of progress and prosperity.
All right.
One final question, if I may, Maria. For years and years, all of us, Mr. Goyal, who look very closely at national security issues, have criticized every single government for not spending enough on defense. I find it interesting that this time around, the amount on capital expenditure in defense, which is so important, is actually the highest that we've seen as a percentage in quite some time. So the absolute spend on equipping ourselves is substantial, as opposed to in the past when we were struggling to make salary payments, pension payouts, and running this behemoth, which is the Defense Ministry and the Armed Forces. I think that's important and critical given the volatility that we see around us.
And bear in mind, we are also focusing on Atmanirbharta.
Yes.
So our defense production is increasing in India. Our defense exports are increasing. We are becoming self-reliant, and we won't be at the mercy of foreign technologies or foreign supplies at critical juncture when you need equipment the most. This is the sign of a prudent fiscal policy or prudent financial numbers, that we have made adequate provision to ensure that no section is ever starved of funds. In fact, I must say Prime Minister Modi and Finance Minister Ms. Sitharaman have been gracious that any ministry or any department needs funds even during the course of the year.
Yes.
Be it Manrega, be it for commerce, be it for promoting industry. They have never let us down, and funds has never been a constraint or a limiting factor to our ability to take the benefits of progress to the people of India.
All right. Piyush Goyal, pleasure speaking to you, sir. Thank you so much. And we hope you'll be giving us time also in the month of July when the main budget is presented. So thank you so much for speaking to NDTV.